welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be creating 5 fun cards using different stenciling techniques. And I'll be doing that with this kit that comes free with the latest Crafts Companion magazine box kit. So this is the stencil that we're going to be using. We'll be using this on all of our cards. So as you can see, it's kind of more of a picture stencil rather than a pattern stencil. So we'll be using that in lots of different ways. Got an embossing folder which we probably won't use today, but I'm just showing you anyway because it's really pretty. We've got this die set which obviously has the flowers which you could either layer or have separately, this flower centre, a leaf and this leafy stem. And then we've got these stamps which are really nice summery ones. You've got like the pineapple, the flowers, the leaves and the kind of summery celebrations. And then you've got this paper pack. I'm probably not really going to use this today, but I'm just going to quickly flick through it so that if you are wanting this magazine box kit, you know what you're getting. And they are absolutely gorgeous, like bright, fun papers. So really gorgeous kit. So I'm going to grab some scrap paper to work on, and I've got a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card length. Mine's top folding, but it doesn't really matter either way. And then I've got Pretty Peacock from Stampin' Up. I've got Persian Blue, Sunkissed and Boobalite alternate inks. So I'm going to take these one at a time, and I'm going to do the Persian Blue first. I'm going to use one blending brush for the blue and the teal and another one for these two. And then I'm just going to go over these. I'm just going to blend it in kind of bits and pieces. So I'm going to put like splodges of ink blending on, and it doesn't need to be really lovely blending. It's going to get mostly covered up. So we just want a bit of colour there. We don't want a really nice even ink blend, so I'm not going to worry too much about what it looks like and whether it's blending nicely together. I just want a nice density of colour. So then I'm going to start with the lightest of these two colours with this brush, so the Sunkissed. And I'm going with some pink. You can see, like, I want them overlapping a little, but not too much. I don't want like any kind of like grungy colours, so try not to overlap them too much. And then I'll just fill in a little bit with the teal. So you can see I managed to catch my finger on there, so I'll make sure that that is a part that gets covered later. So now I absolutely want to cover this with my embossing buddy. You want a really good coating of this, because if there's any wet ink left on there, we don't want it sticking to our embossing powder because we're going to do some heat embossing. So then we're going to use the leaf part of the stencil for this. So then I've got a scrap of cardstock and I'm going to squeeze some of this sticky ink onto it, and then I'm just going to dab into that, and I'm going to dab onto these leaves. And then I can move my stencil and I can do another set of leaves. So although it's hard to see on screen, we've got like a nice all over pattern. So I'm going to grab my clear gloss embossing powder from Wow and I'll pour that over here. And there are a couple of places on here where I've just caught like off the edge of the stencil, and so the embossing powder's stuck to that bit of extra ink. So I'm just taking those away with a paintbrush. So then I'm going to just heat this up. And then I'm going to go in with my jet black ink. And I'm going to go over the whole thing. And you see how those leaves are really starting to pop now. So now we've got this really fun kind of poppy background. And then I'm just going to take a piece of dry paper towel and just go over those leaves a little, just to take off any excess black ink, and that really helps to brighten those up as well. So now we've got this really gorgeous bright poppy background. So I'm going to do some stamping, and I want them to be quite bold because it's quite a bold card. So I'm going to go with this pineapple and this happy birthday, but I'm going to heat emboss them with black embossing powder, kind of get a really punchy look to it. Then I'm going to use my Wow Primary Ebony Superfine embossing powder. Then I'm going to colour the pineapple with this Sunshine Valley Garden set. So I'm going to use Citrus Burst, Fresh Lemon and Maple Yellow. These are the Altenew alcohol markers that I use all the time. So I'm going to outline this in Rubelite from that same set of markers, just so that it kind of ties in with this a little bit. So I'm going to cut those out. So then I've used this Fine Frames cover die from Altenew to cut these frames, and you could absolutely do this if you've got layering rectangles dies. You can obviously use two together to create a frame, but I really like this die because A, the frames are much finer than anything that I would be able to create with the layering dies that I own, and also it means you get a whole bunch of them in one go. You don't have to worry about whether you've laid them out so that it's going to be the same all the way round, so you're saving quite a lot of effort by doing that. So I'm going to take this one out of the middle, and I've cut mine with some adhesive sheet on the back so it's easy to stick down. So I'm going to stick this onto my card. So then I'm going to pop some foam pads on the back of here, and then I'm going to pop them up on my card. So then we've got this really cool bright poppy card. So then for my second card, I'm going to create a diamond pop-up card. So we're going to make the card blank first. So I've got a 5 by 10 inch piece of pink cardstock, and I'm going to score it at 2.5 inches, at 5 inches, and then I'm just going to mark it at 2.5 inches above this line, so essentially it's 7.5 inches, just at either side, and then I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to mark it at 2.5 inches across the top as well. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the diagonal, so I'm going to join this mark here with this line here, so we're going right across the centre of the card, and then I'm going to do the same the other way, and then at the top I'm going to line up this centre mark with this mark here, and I'm going to cut that piece off, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So obviously this trimmer does cutting and scoring, but you can obviously use a scoreboard and a trimmer if you've got two separate things. So then I can fold along these lines, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push these triangles in so the diamond pops out, and then I can just burnish that line as well. I'm just burnishing with my nails, but you can obviously use a bone folder if you've not got long nails. So that's the base of our pop-up card. So this diamond is essentially a 3.5 inch square. So then I want to make a 3.25 inch square panel from coloured paper. So I've cut some strips of paper to be just over 3/4 inch by 3.5 inches. The reason I've made it 3.5 inches wide is so that I can trim the sides off and get nice neat sides, because sometimes when you line them up they just look slightly out of place. So I'm going to put them onto this white panel so that we've got something to stick them to. So then I can go and trim that down to 3.25 inches. So Then I'm going to mask off some of these areas around the tree because I want to use the tree. And then I've got to remember that this is going to be a diamond on my card. So I'm going to want it up this way. And then I want to place my palm trees on it. And then I'm just going to stick that down with this so I don't get any extra on those sides either. And then I'm going to do some heat embossing again. So I'm going to use the sticky ink again. And I'm going to be quite careful because there's some pieces of this that just want to kind of come off a bit. It's quite a delicate stencil. And then I'm going to use that primary ebony embossing powder again. So then I can heat this up. You can see that stands off there really nicely. And then I'm going to use this stamp here and heat emboss that in black on this orange cardstock. So then I've got a 2¼ inch by 4 3/4 inch piece of the tealy cardstock that I've been using, and I'm just masking off this wave part of the stencil, and then I'm going to place this kind of intermittently onto here. So then I'm going to ink through that with my sticky ink again. And I kind of don't want this to be particularly uniform, so I'm just kind of placing the stencil wherever, doing some more waves. And I'm just going to go for a tone on tone look with this one, so I'm just going to use my clear gloss. So I'm just going through and touching up any areas where the powder has gone where I don't want it to. But I'm not going to worry too much about this middle section because that is going to be covered by the card blank. So then I can put my card together. So this is going to go under here. So I'm going to glue that on. And then I'm also going to glue under this triangle and glue that part of the card base down. Then we're going to glue this panel onto the diamond bit of the card. And then I'm going to pop this piece up on some foam pads. So I'm going to slightly off-centre it. I don't want too many foam pads because they can't come off this bit here. So then we've got this really cute diamond pop-up card. And I kind of like the way that it looks like. There's the sea down here, kind of a bit of beach with the sentiment and then the palm trees coming out. So for the next card I'm going to make a circular card. So I'm going to use this circle as my centerpiece that is about 4½ inches, and I'm going to make a scene for this one. So I'm going to do some masking on the trees. So I'm just going to mask off the green bits so that I can just do the trunks, and I'm going to use a fine blending brush. These are the Altenew mini blending brushes, just so that I don't catch anything else by mistake. And now that I've done the brown, I'm just going to take those off a second because now I want to do the background, and then I'll do the rest of the foreground on top of the background. So I want some sand at the bottom, so I'm just going to cut a curve from some cardstock, and I'm going to use that as kind of a stencil. So I'm going to tape that in place a second, and then I'm going to use our sunkist ink for the sand. So I'm going to bring in this piece of paper, which is looking pretty tatty now, but I don't want to waste paper. So I'm just going to add just a light bit of this sunkist ink. I don't want it too harsh, just want kind of a pale background. And then I'm going to use the piece that I cut out to cover this over so that I can do the sky. I'm going to use a pale blue, so water hyacinth ink. I want to do the rest of the detail over the top, so it's important that this layer is nice and light. So I just kind of want a hint of blue for the sky. And this time I'm going to cover over the trunks as opposed to the leaves. And then I'm going to use the pretty peacock ink that we used earlier, just to fill in those trees. You can see I made a mistake going over there, so we'll cover that up in a minute. First of all, I want to do the sun. I'm just going to clean off my stencil with a water wipe so I'm not getting any unwanted ink anywhere. So I'm going to learn my lesson from the last inking, and I'm going to just cover over the sides of that as well. Now I use some fresh lemon ink to do the sun. And then I'm going to do some birds, and I'm going to try and cover up this mistake with one of them. So I'm going to do those in my black ink. Then I'm going to use the black ink to stamp and let the sun shine into the sun bit. So then I've got a circle I've cut from black cardstock. It's about 1/4 of an inch bigger than my stenciled piece. And then I've got these two pieces that are going to be my card blank, and they are about 6 inches. So what I'm going to do is take one of these teal pieces and I am going to cut it about 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to turn that around, and then I'm going to make sure that this line here is parallel, and I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. So this line will help it stand up. This line is for sticking, so I'm going to add some glue above that line. So then I'm going to glue these together. And then I'm going to pop this up on some foam pads. And there's that card finished. So for my next card, I'm going to create a gatefold card. So I'm going to grab my scoreboard, and I've got a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 by 8.5 inches, and I'm going to score it at 2 1/8, and then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to score it 2 1/8 again. Then I fold these in to meet in the middle. So then I'm going to mask the leaves off. I'm using the mint tape from scrapbook.com here for masking, because it's a nice kind of low tack tape. I'm not worried that it's going to tear my card. And then I'm going to just go through them with some sticky embossing ink. And then I'm going to use this Be Kind Honeybee Stamps embossing powder. It's a gorgeous kind of minty green colour. So then we're left with this beautiful glittery pattern. So now I'm going to create a piece for the belly band that we're going to pop round. So I'm going to heat emboss my sentiment onto some pink cardstock. So I've got the Have a Lovely Day sentiment. I'm going to emboss that with black embossing powder. And then I'm going to cut this out using a circle layering down. So then we've got that, and I've cut a teal circle one size bigger, so it's about 1/4 of an inch bigger, and I can glue those together. And then I'm going to heat emboss a couple of leaves onto here, and I'm going to heat emboss that in black. Then I'm going to stamp this one. I'm going to emboss that in the same embossing glitter as I've used for this Be Kind one. And then I'm going to cut those out. Then I've also cut this one from the teal cardstock with this die. So I'm going to just kind of place those behind there. So then I'm going to create a belly band for the card. So I've got a piece of teal cardstock about 1 inch wide and a piece of pink that's about 3/4 of an inch wide, and they're both 9.5 inches long. And then I'm just going to bend this around the back of my card. And the aim is to get it reasonably tight so that it stays up. You still want to be able to slide it on and off. And then I'm just going to glue my Have a Lovely Day in the middle. And then I've got this peacock crystal collection from Little Things from Lucy's Cards. And then I'm going to place some of those kind of minty green pearls either side. So then that's that card finished. So then for my next card, I have got a 4-inch square piece of watercolour cardstock. And I'm going to use my Altenew Watercolour Essential set. And I'm going to just kind of do some stripes of colour. And I'm going to leave that to dry. So now that that is dry, I'm going to come back in with my stencil and I'm going to use the black with thicker consistency than I used on the wash, just to colour in that stenciled tree. So then I'm going to use black ink pad to ink up this Celebrate Your Day. I'm going to stamp that at the bottom here. So then all that's left to do is to layer up my card. So I've got a piece of black cardstock, 1/4 of an inch larger than my piece of watercolour paper. And then I'm going to add this onto my card blank. And then that's that one finished. So then there we have all 5 of today's cards using all sorts of different techniques that you can use with your stencils. I'd love to know which card or which technique you like the best, and I hope you'll find something new to try with your stencils at home. It's a really nice way to stretch your stash. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I have a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.